Okay, so today I want to continue on with my journey to branch out and discuss other things aside from books. And today I'm going to be looking at the supposed riggery when it comes to reality show competitions. Now, I have been a fan of reality competitions for the longest time. To say reality shows would be too generalized. I am not talking about franchises like The Real Housewives here. I'm specifically talking about competitions. If we look at shows like America's Got Talent, Survivor, The Amazing Race, Big Brother, Idol, things like that, where we have reality shows that are literally competitions where round by round, one or more than one person is going to be eliminated until we finally get a winner. Now, the interesting thing when it does come to riggery with these shows is the formatting itself, as well as what it is that we are told and what it is that we are not told. Also, who has the power when it comes to determining who is going to be eliminated. If we look at a show like America's Got Talent, seemingly the public decides who is going to continue to go through and who is going to win. If we look at a show like Survivor or Big Brother America, then it comes down to the contestants themselves, which does make a lot more sense, especially when you consider the fact that what is being judged on Big Brother and Survivor is what is going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that we don't get to see in what is edited down to, in the case of Survivor, one 45-minute episode that is meant to cover an entire week. So we need to factor this into consideration before we do go any further. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because my opinion has changed when it comes to riggery over the course of time. I started off as a reality competition show purist. Anytime that I saw anything occur on TV, I assumed that what I was being presented with was extremely factual. The winner of any show or the person that was eliminated, I always felt was extremely legitimate. But then, suddenly, things started surfacing that made me start to question things. There is a great saying from the film Legally Blonde, which is always sharply question what you think you know. And my eyes have been opened to certain things. Now, I want to start off by discussing America's Got Talent, but I do need to be mindful that a lot of the research that I have done, or moreover, research that has come to me just out of nowhere, and then that I've followed up with, has come about thanks to many different Got Talent franchises. Yeah, I've heard a lot of different things that have gone on behind the scenes that have made me question how much of it is reality and how much of it is reality. So, starting off with Got Talent, I think the biggest thing that I did not consider, but once I had found this out, did make sense to me, was that we're not just considering what we see on TV, the actual talent that is being presented on stage. Whether you are a singer, a comedian, a magician, someone who does a dog show, someone who does a danger act, whatever it is, what is being judged is not necessarily just the talent itself. The biggest information that came to light for me was the backstory. Now, I am going to be saying spoilers in this video, so if you have not seen the current season of America's Got Talent, which is season 17, then do be mindful that I am going to be stating spoilers. That show is over, so I am going to be including information on finalists as well as the winner, so please just do keep that in mind. When I started watching season 17 of America's Got Talent, I was incredibly excited, but this was one of the first times that I'd gone into watching a reality show competition where I was mindful of riggery and indeed its backstory. And then I watched an act that came on that received a golden buzzer, and in my mind I went, yep, I can tell you right now, that was just your audition, but you're going to win. I almost had convinced myself that if I had placed $1 million bet, not that I have $1 million, but had I theoretically placed $1 million bet, that I definitely would have been safe with that bet. Interestingly enough, it turned out I was wrong. Now I'm going to discuss with you who I thought was going to win, as well as my surprise when I found out who did win, and then I'm going to branch out and talk about other shows as well. So, the season 17 finals had a total of 11 acts. And the act that I thought was going to win from the moment I saw their audition did make it through to the finals. So I was convinced that I was still right at the time. The act that I'm referring to is a boy by the name of Avery Dixon. So Avery came onto the show to play his saxophone. Now, I need to make the point here that I don't think it is enough to have a good backstory. I think that you do actually need to have the talent, otherwise it is going to be completely obvious. If you have someone who comes onto the stage of America's Got Talent and they say the most horrific backstory and yet their talent is an absolute flop, then the riggery is going to be completely obvious. So the first thing that would be looked at as far as riggery being concerned is the backstory, but the second thing would be that they need to be talented so that it won't be questioned. When Avery came on stage, and please note that I am in no way, shape or form a racist person. I don't see skin color. Maybe that is considered racist, but for me, growing up, I had different friends of different genders, sexual orientation, skin color, all that kind of stuff. So to me, I never saw it from a young age. You're a person and that's it. But we do need to keep in mind that Avery Dixon was a boy who was a boy POC, a person of color. But his backstory is incredibly intriguing. He was bullied for the majority of his life, and he was trying to show his bullies that he could do anything. This is a wonderful story. Not only is it a wonderful story for America's Got Talent, but it's also a wonderful story for the channel, which is NBC. What a great way to celebrate a winner and to just have an amazing journey story for your show, NBC, than to crown Avery Dixon a person of color who's not exactly thin. I'm not saying anything about his weight, but he's not exactly stick thin or muscly, and he's been bullied all of his life, and he wins the show, and he shows all of his bullies who's boss at the end of the day. It is a great story. Avery did not win. He became a finalist, but he didn't even make it into the top 5. And this incredibly surprised me. So I started thinking, I wonder who is going to win, especially considering that all or most of the others didn't really have what I considered to be a qualifier for riggery. I think Chapel Hart certainly would have stood a chance at a wonderful backstory and as an act that has amazing talent, given that they had been trying for the longest time to break into the music industry, and they kept getting knocked back. And obviously all 3 women are just incredibly talented, and I think that would have been a great way to, as they say, stick it to the man if they had won. But Chapel Hart didn't win, so I think they made it to 5th or 4th. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia stats here. I did watch the episode, but I honestly don't remember where they placed, but they placed relatively high, but they did not even make it into the final 3. When we got down to the final 3, there were 3 acts left, and they were the Myers, Drake Milligan, and Christy Sellers. And so when this happened, in my mind, I automatically thought I knew who the winner was. I knew in my mind that it was going to be Drake Milligan. It just made the most sense to me. I did not at all for the life of me remember Drake Milligan's backstory. I did remember the Myers backstory. We'll get to that in just a moment. And I definitely did not remember Christy Sellers' backstory at all. But Yeah, Drake Milligan, I thought automatically he was going to win, and let me explain why. When we got down to the top three, Drake Milligan was the only American still on that stage. And what would make more sense than crowning an American for America's Got Talent, right? So I was incredibly surprised when Drake Milligan placed third, leaving Christy Sellers and the Myers in the top two. Considering that neither of them were American, this threw me for an absolute loop, and I right away dropped my idea that this show is rigged. It just doesn't make any sense to me why America's Got Talent would crown a winner that is not American if the show was rigged. Now, we do need to be mindful of backstory, despite the fact that neither of the top two acts were American, and I do not remember Christy Sellers' backstory at all. The Myers, of course, I absolutely do. I loved the Myers audition all the way through, and despite them not being American, they would be a fit for Riggery because their backstory is one that sells. It was fantastic. Now, again, I love the Myers. I'm not trying to say this and say the Myers aren't an amazing actor or anything like that. I think they're fantastic. I'm just coming from the perspective of, if the Myers were to win, can this be seen as Riggery or not? And looking based on the backstory only, yes, it could be. For those of you who don't know, the Myers are a group of Lebanese dancers who do this kind of hypnotic visualization with their dance movements. There are a number of Arab women who dance together, and their movements are done in such synchronistic fashion that it just looks incredibly hypnotic and incredibly beautiful, and it's done so well, and the amount of effort and time and training that they need to spend in order to pull off what they did in every single one of their rounds definitely did, it blew me away, because as someone who has studied dance in the past, who is not the best dancer, I can definitely appreciate everything that they've done to get here based purely on the act that they did. However, their backstory is definitely one to take into consideration. When they walked onto the stage and they were asked, who they were and where they came from and what made them decide to come to the show, which are all standard questions, the representative for the group said that as Arab women, we're not really given many opportunities back at home. We're not really appreciated for what we do. So we decided to come here, and I'm not quoting them verbatim, but basically they were saying they decided to come to America's Got Talent to see if it would make a difference. Ultimately, the Myers did beat out Christy Sellers. Now, I don't know what the difference was in the votes, but you need to know that so that we can discuss this moving forward. Do I see this as Riggery? Based on their backstory, yes, it is a story that you can absolutely sell. These people in their own homeland can't do what they did on America's Got Talent based on their gender, and America's Got Talent not only gave them the opportunity to put their face and name out there to basically have this grand world exposure, but for them to win, it's an amazing fairy tale, epic, grand story that will be discussed for a very, very, very long time. But again, I go back to the fact that the Myers are not American. And so to me, it just doesn't make sense if you're going to rig a show to announce the winner as being a non-American. So in my belief, and especially considering also that the runner-up was also not American. Christy Sellers is from Australia. In fact, she lives in a country area called Ballarat in Victoria, Australia, an area that I have actually lived in myself. So I was very surprised that someone from good old country Victoria, Ballarat specifically, could make it to the top two of America's Got Talent. But the fact that both the final two were international performers very strongly leads me to believe that this was not rigged, because it doesn't make sense to me why the channel or the show in general would crown a winner that is not American. It doesn't make any sense to me why that would be rigged. Can I therefore buy into the possibility that they were legitimately voted as the winners? Yes, I can see how their backstory as well as their act can be something that all of of the fans got behind and voted for. So I do 100% believe that the Mayas did legitimately win the competition. But if I am to go back, I don't remember how many seasons ago it was, but if I were to go back to a certain season, I do remember having the same opinion about a certain actor that did go on to win, where I reacted the same way to their audition as I did to Avery's, thinking right after their audition, oh my gosh, you're going to win. I just know that you're going to win. There's a difference between watching an act for me that I like, going, oh, I love you and I hope you do well and I want to see you in the next round. I want to see you in the final and I hope you place well and I really enjoyed that performance versus I know you're going to win. I just know. And I am talking about, and again, I'm sorry if I spoil it, but it was from quite a number of seasons ago. I am talking about Darcy Lynn. Now, I absolutely loved Darcy Lynn, but, and for those of you who don't know, Darcy Lynn was a young girl who came onto the show. She still is, but was at the time, a ventriloquist, and she came on with her ventriloquist puppet bunny known as Petunia. I'm sure a lot of us remember Darcy's first audition. If you haven't seen it, you can find it on YouTube, and it was fantastic. Generally, with ventriloquists, they have the puppet speak, and they create the illusion that the puppet is speaking by not moving their mouths. But what separated Darcy from other ventriloquists that I'd ever seen, and there are a number of ventriloquists that I love, my favorite being David Strassman. I love him. I love Teddy Bear. I grew up loving Teddy Bear as a young kid. So, yeah, I've been exposed to a number of ventriloquists, but what impressed me with Darcy was the fact that she had Petunia sing, which is incredibly tough to do. I think that Darcy had a lot of charisma as well, and her backstory was good. If I remember this correctly, Darcy was having trouble socializing, and so her mother bought her Petunia in order to try and help her to socialize. So she did have an impressive storyline. She is American, and her talent is incredibly amazing. It's not only respectful, but she's clearly talented in what she does. So I knew she was going to win. When she did win, I was not surprised. So there you go. Do I think this was riggery? I think it is possible that it was rigged. I have no proof that it was or wasn't, but I think that Darcy Lynn is definitely a case that we can look towards as being highly possible that it was rigged. Now, I want to move on to other shows and discuss them with you as well. And I'd like to start off talking about my favorite reality show competition of all time, American Survivor. Now, I'm very quick to point out American Survivor because I don't like Australian Survivor. I have tried with Australian Survivor and its many different versions because Australian Survivor began way, way, way back in the day, and they have tried multiple different versions on multiple different channels here in Australia, and it's just never worked for me. But American Survivor is something that I always gravitated towards. For those of you wondering how big a Survivor fan I am, I started watching Survivor from the finale of season 1. Again, I will be providing some spoilers for Survivor, so please be mindful of that as we do go along. But when Richard Hatch was named the winner of Survivor Borneo, I was there watching it on my TV, and that's what began it for me. And then I watched season 2, the Australian Outback, right from episode 1, and have continued to watch Survivor ever since. I just think it is an amazing show. What draws me to shows like Survivor, where the onus is on the contestants themselves to determine what is going to happen. They determine who they vote out. They determine indirectly, not only who they vote out, but indirectly who stays. And they also have a jury that determines who wins. But all of this is done by the contestants themselves. Is that I'm very interested in anthropology, the study of human nature. If you place humans into a certain situation, how are they going to react? How are they going to deal? What are they going to do? And I find it very intriguing. However, a couple of years ago, there was a bit of an expose that came out, and I cannot tell you the name of the survivor because I do not remember who it was, but there was a survivor contestant that did come out and make a point that the producers did step in and told them to not vote out the person they wanted to, that the tribe wanted to vote out, but to change their minds and vote out someone else. Now, what I found very intriguing about this expose was that the survivor who was saying this was not the survivor that was in question to be going home, but one of the survivors that was voting a certain way but was told to change their vote. Why would they come out and say this unless it was true? I really don't feel like there was any motivation to do that. Now, I have nothing to back up that this was the case, but I think with Survivor, one of the toughest things when it comes to determining if it is rigged or not, despite the fact that Jeff Probst does make the point that it is all based on the contestants and, you know, they control the story, and that's why they don't like things like tie breaks or whatever, because they always want the survivors, the castaways, to be in charge of what is going on. I find it interesting that production stepped in according to this survivor. But the interesting thing is, because we only get 45-minute one times 45-minute episode per week for Survivor, unless it's a double, but usually we do, then there's nowhere near enough time or opportunity for us to see what has been left on the cutting room floor. We only get to see the absolute highlights. Now, does this make for an amazing show? Absolutely, because unlike the early seasons of Survivor, we are not seeing them sitting around and just having a standard conversation. We are seeing them talking. When they are sitting around, they're literally talking strategy, and when they're not sitting around talking strategy, they're either doing the challenges, or they're finding immunity idols, or they're at tribal council voting someone off. So you're literally getting the best of the best moments, which I do appreciate. But it does call into question, is Survivor rigged? I definitely don't have enough information, as I say, to confirm or deny, but it does have me thinking, you know, what's going on. I want to quickly jump back to Got Talent, specifically Britain's Got Talent, and I want to talk about a contestant by the name of Zoe Alexander. Now, if you don't know the name, you might be familiar with her act. Zoe is stepped onto Britain's Got Talent as someone who very much looks like Pink. You may remember the incredibly upset Pink lookalike audition where, she was very angry with how things went down. Did it make for entertaining TV? Absolutely. But then after her contract expired, Zoe decided to create her own YouTube channel and expose exactly what was going on. Now, Zoe performed a Pink song. I honestly don't remember what it was called, but I think it was So What? And she was eliminated, and the circumstances were rather suspicious. Zoe came out, and when she was interviewed by the judges before she did her performance, she was asked about her life and why she's here, and she said that she had been a Pink impersonator for quite some time, but she was looking to branch out and change what she was doing and to stand on her own 2 feet as Zoe rather than as a Pink impersonator. And then she ended up performing the Pink song So What? So the judges understandably were saying to her, well, we're a bit confused because you said you wanted to step away from Pink and yet you sung a So What? You sung a song by Pink. It doesn't make sense. Now, based on the audition alone, I think Zoe did a great job. I think that she is a good singer, but the judges were clearly confused. Now, what was surprising was Zoe's response. And this is what led me to do research, because I'm surprised that Britain's Got Talent actually kept in what Zoe's response was. Her response to the judges was, well, hang on, you told me to sing a Pink song. I didn't want to do this. You told me to do it. And all I could think was, why would she say that? It makes absolutely no sense to me why she would say that if it wasn't true. And the judges were saying, hang on, no, we didn't tell you to say that. What are you talking about? So, fortunately for me, by the time I started doing this research, Zoe had already come out on her YouTube channel and explained the situation. And she was told by producers to sing a Pink song. When she arrived on the day, she went through a number of complications, and I'm not going to get into that. If you want to check all that out, you can go to her channel and listen to everything she says. It is a 2-parter. She goes into quite a lot of detail. But the point is that the producers were telling her that she needs to sing a Pink song. So she went on and sung the Pink song, and clearly she was incredibly frustrated when the judges turned around and said, well, why did you sing a Pink song, considering they told her to do that. And this is kind of what got the ball rolling for me. And I have seen a number of different exposés that have come out from acts of Got Talent around the world. Got Talent, sorry, she wasn't on Got Talent, she was on X Factor, but Got Talent, X Factor, Idol, shows of that nature, where things go on behind the scenes that we don't necessarily see. And it does call into question reality versus reality. Fabricated reality, where the producers are pushing what they want us to see as opposed to what is actually going on. So it is something that I would like to investigate further. When I think of other reality shows, it's tough to see if riggery is going on. I think the easiest way to see if riggery is going on is looking at a show like Got Talent and looking at the backstory. However, another show that I can bring up for you is RuPaul's Drag Race. Okay, I am a massive member and advocate of the LGBTIQ+ community, and I will never forget the first time that I watched RuPaul's Drag Race, and I have been hooked on that show ever since. I need to talk about some riggery that has been pointed out by certain individuals, some who have taken part in the show, and some that are speculating, that does seem to make sense to me. First of all, I'm going to be using spoilers again here for the latest season, which was All Stars 7, which was the winners season, All Stars All Winners. So let's jump right in with that. The winner of RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars All Winners was Jinx Monsoon. And Jinx is actually my favorite drag queen, so I was incredibly happy that she did win. However, when I went into watching this season, I went in being mindful of riggery, and I felt like I saw it as the season did go along. Very interestingly and rather controversially, there is no reunion show for RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars All Winners. Usually there is always a reunion show, whether it is a standard Drag Race season or an All Stars Drag Race season, and if it is filmed in the US. I say this because there is no reunion show for RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under, which is the Drag Race season that's set in New Zealand and features New Zealand and Australian queens. But in America, there almost always is. But the reason why there wasn't a reunion was because the queens had a lot to say about a lot of things that went on that we did not get to see, and they did not want to do the reunion with the channel in America where the show is filmed. I honestly don't remember what it's called because we don't have that channel here. I watch RuPaul's Drag Race through a streaming service in Australia called Stan, so I don't remember what the channel is called over there. But apparently they did end up filming a reunion, but the reunion is apparently, they filmed a reunion away from the channel, but it's never going to see the light of day, which is really annoying to me because I really would have loved to have seen the queens, hear from the horse's mouth basically what the heck actually was going on. But as someone who loves Jinx Monsoon, what was confusing me was that Jinx was getting wins and stars, because that season was all about collecting stars, that I didn't think she always deserved. And so that was what was making me question things. And a lot of people have come out in defense of Monet Exchange, who she was in the final lip sync with, saying that Monet clearly won the lip sync, which I agree to, and Monet didn't win. So it does call that into question. But I also, very briefly, while I'm on the topic of Drag Race, need to mention the drama that went down with Shangela. I'm going to break this down incredibly quickly. Shangela is a queen, the queen who has been on RuPaul's Drag Race the most. If you know the show, you know what I mean. And she ended up entering into RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 3, where she made it to the final 4. There was no doubt in anyone's mind that Shangela should win, especially given what happened with Ben de la Creme earlier on in the season. However, in a twist that had never occurred on Drag Race before, they ended up selecting a jury of the contestants that had gone home earlier, and the jury were going to determine from the final 4 who would make the final 2. RuPaul was not going to have a say in the matter, and the jury was going to determine who it was. The jury were bitter queens, and the way that the All-Stars season is set up is that it is the queens who determine who is eliminated every single episode. So the jury were bitter and they voted Shangela out of the top 4. And this definitely should not have happened. More interesting, though, is the fact that Trixie Mattel won the season, and there's been a lot of backlash since then over whether Trixie deserved the win or not. The backstory for Trixie in this case, which does make me consider that it could have been rigged, is that Trixie is the single most well-known drag queen to come out of the RuPaul's Drag Race franchise. So it not only makes sense for them to crown her and to pay homage to her successful career, but also it's a great move for the channel and for the show to announce Trixie as the winner. There are many other shows and many other examples that I can give you, but I really don't want to go too far over time, so I will leave that there. If you would like a part 2, where I talk more about reality show competitions that I feel are rigged, or that have been claimed as being rigged and I don't think they are, let me know in the comments section below. I also would love to do a video discussing all of my favourite acts on Got Talent, so if you would like to see that, let me know that as well. But in the meantime, that is where I am going to leave it, letting you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Tell me about shows that you've seen that have been clearly rigged in your opinion in the comments below. And until next time, have a wonderful day and spread your sparkling energy all throughout the world. Bye, guys!